This is the North Africa Journal, and thank you for downloading this podcast. For more podcast information and user rules, please visit north-africa.com/podcast.
So for more on this developing story now, we're joined by Arezki Daoud, editor of the North Africa Journal. Arezki, the appointment of a new vice president, what do you make of that? Is this indeed a sign that Mubarak is open to change, do you think? Or does this now signal not at all? This is a man who is preaching reform but doing quite the opposite.
Yes, good afternoon. This is essentially the end of the road for Mubarak himself. As far as his appointments are concerned, they are sort of immediate knee-jerk reaction, as we've seen, by the way, in their western neighbor, Tunis, which essentially now we're seeing somewhat of a repeat of a mini template of Tunisia. A president ousted, an interim solution, but a solution that really no one likes. And in this case, the appointment of a vice president, the first time in 30 years, through Omar Suleiman, the head of intelligence, a person that really no one knows, is something that's not going to appease the people. On the other hand, you have also this gentleman, Ahmed Shafiq, who is who has been appointed as prime minister to form a government, again, a military man. So I think the inevitability is here. I believe that the days are counted, probably in the sense that he is going to follow the same path as President Ben Ali. Meanwhile, it's going to be a very stressful environment until a solution comes along.
But when you say the days are counting down to him leaving or his ouster, I mean, how will that play out? We've got Western nations. We heard Barack Obama, responding that real reforms need to take place. We heard that statement from the White House. If they don't take place, the U.S. might consider pulling its $1.5 billion in aid. Yet what we see now, I mean, all it appears to be right now, this appointment of the vice president, is a bit of a maneuver to what? To give Mubarak more time so he can exit somehow gracefully? What is this?
You're absolutely right. I mean, it reminds me what's happening here from a U.S. perspective, what really Joe Biden, the current vice president in the U.S., stated during right after the election campaign, that President Barack Obama is likely to face a substantial crisis sometime. So the global economic meltdown was underway. So that wasn't probably what he meant. I think Egypt is essentially it. This is basically what the U.S. has to deal with. And obviously it has enormous consequences, and I'm not sure they know exactly what ought to happen. I think, to your point, there's probably a little bit of buying some time so that they can get a face-saving solution, particularly vis-a-vis Mubarak, what to do with him, where to send him, how to deal with all of that. I think they need the face-saving solution is essentially to get someone who kept a distance from this regime, who may be a technocrat, just as we've seen again in neighboring Tunisia, who could galvanize the people and in fact calm the population towards a better solution. But that's going to be a very interesting temporary period.
I just want to clarify. So are you suggesting that it's about saving face on the part of the U.S. as well? Because I was referring to Mubarak, but do you think the U.S. is actually working with Mubarak to figure out how to do this?
I think, there's no clear evidence there, obviously, but I think, it's to their interest that that country doesn't turn into a civil war, doesn't explode.
Yeah.
And
how much time do they have, though?
They need to have a solution, one that would make promises to the people that civil liberties, democracy, human decency are implied in the country.
But we know that I'm going to interrupt you just for a moment, because we know that elections were coming up right in September, and I know that you're saying that 8 months, if we're to wait until those elections, that's a lot of time. A lot of people say a lot of time for any extremist elements to come in and try and cement their power. What do you think?
Well, I agree, and that's why rather than reinforcing a government with old guards and military, and by the way, the military will go nowhere. I mean, they have a major role to play. I think it's very important for them to bring someone who sounds neutral, who is neutral, someone like El-Baradei. He is a technocrat. He's not necessarily a politician. But from now to basically the election period, they will have enough time to figure out what Plan B is all about. But to keep the Omar Suleiman, to keep Ahmed Shafiq, it is as if Mubarak is still there, and that's something that the people don't want.
Arezki, just quickly, do you think that this incident, this turn of events in Egypt, will force the United States to now dramatically step back and look at the kind of policies it has been enacting in the Middle East?
Oh, I think the process started a little while ago. I'm almost sure that it probably started before the Tunisian debacle. There have been certainly a lot of statements from the State Department, from Hillary Clinton about sort of the need to change the way the Arab regimes work, and so it's been there. I think both Obama and Hillary Clinton are looking to have their own signature in a U.S. policy in the Middle East, and we've seen that. So I think that, yes, going forward, there's this risk of a domino effect, and they need to articulate a better position as far as where the U.S. stands.
All right, Arezki Daoud, editor of the North Africa Journal, joining us. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
This was the North Africa Journal podcast. Thank you for listening.